while you have opportunity, live your best now. This life is not the best, but in it, and as long as we have it, we can live our best. The reason why is because we have access to the best. Yeah, we've been saved by the best. Some of y'all looking at me kind of peculiar. Mother Carter said this morning in Sunday school, we can't assume that everybody's saved. But if you've been born again, you've been born again, you've been brought forth, you've been made anew, you've been justified, sanctified, qualified by the best. The best is with us. The best is dwelling in us. All we have to do is keep seeking the best. All we have to do is keep pursuing the best. All we have to do is keep cultivating a relationship with the best. All we got to do is keep talking to and allow the best to talk to us. Submit our lives to the best. Live under the authority of the best. Well, who is the best anyway? The best has a criteria that cannot be matched with anything or anybody. For the best, the Bible says, has the preeminence of all things, which simply means that the best is before all things, and by the best, all things consist. Who meets that criteria? Who crafted the moon and stars? Who laid the foundation of the galaxies? Who flung the clouds across the sky? Who makes the grass grow? Who makes the snow come down? Who guards and guides the thunder as it rolls? Who tames the storm that we can walk on our circumstances? Who brought us, who kept us, who nurtures us, who loves us, who rocks us, who mends us, who lifts us, who makes a way out of no way? He's the best, I tell you. Somebody can say, can't nobody do me like Jesus. Can't nobody do me like the Lord. Can't nobody make a way like he can make a way. I know he's the best because when I was at my worst, anybody here can say he met me? He met me at my worst, and he clothed me in the best. Somebody here ought to be able to say, I ain't what I was. No way, no how. I'm wrapped up, I'm tied up in Christ Jesus. When God looks at me, let me tell you what he sees. Oh, he sees Jesus in me. Anybody out there can say that? When the Lord looks at you, when God looks at you, he's no longer remembering where you used to be and what you used to do. If you know Jesus, he's got you clothed in Jesus. I'm covered today. And I'm covered by the best. Somebody ought to help me preach today. Somebody ought to. Fasting is a tool for putting us in intimate touch with the best so that we can live our best now. I'm convinced that fasting ought to be built in to the lifestyle of the redeemed, a discipline that helps us to bring fleshly desires under subjection. That's why for us, the Lenten season is a good time. And I remember, when I initiated that, I used to hear some peculiar things from some of us. But when we begin to regard Ash Wednesday and recognize that as the beginning of the Lenten season, it gave us an opportunity to build a discipline into our Christian lives that helps us. Because you see, sometimes we put too much emphasis on miracles. And God ain't just going to come down from heaven and stop you from lying all of a sudden all the time. Some things you got to stop praying for if all you're doing is going in your closet and being idle. But there are some disciplines that if I make good use of the disciplines, over a process, I'll find myself not lying like I used to lie. Isn't that right? I'll find myself cutting back and cutting down. I'll find myself losing the taste for just looking at everything that goes by my way. And not just looking, but longing. Somebody know what I'm talking about. Got to have everything. Got no control at all. But fasting introduces us to a discipline that helps us via a process to know how to do without some stuff. And every child of God needs to be pursuing a lifestyle where you're not under control of any substance. I know some of us are on our way. We're on our way. But if you say the Lord woke me up this morning, maybe you can do without the coffee pot one day. If you say the Lord fills my soul with good things, maybe you can do without the whole apple pie orville. Maybe I don't have to have 3 pieces of chicken all the time. I'm talking about a process by which we bring the flesh under subjection. I ain't trying to beat up on anybody, but I'm trying to help everybody to live your best life. Yeah. Fasting won't get you into heaven. Can I be real with us? No. Fasting ain't going to get you into heaven. Only Jesus can do that. And not fasting is not going to take you to hell. So don't walk away from here talking about pastors say we got to fast. I'm just trying to help us. Isn't that right? Yeah. I'm just trying to give us some tools. And sometimes if we make good use of the tools, we will discover how much authority we already have. When fasting and prayer build into our lives, we discover that it's not a reactive move that we look to in a moment of desperation. It's a proactive means that we lean on for God's move of preparation. Do y'all get that? We don't necessarily fast to get God to do something extra special. We fast to recognize that God has already done something extra. I need to say that one more time. See, when you go to the doctor and you get some bad news, and you know how we react. You get on the phone, I need everybody to fast and pray with me. I got some bad news. I ain't mad at that. I understand that. But check out building into your life before you get the bad news of drawing closer to God in an intimate relationship through fasting and recognize what God will do in your life while the sun is shining. And you'll discover when God has given you the authority that you need while the sun is shining, when God has given you the power, when you have the joy of God, when God has built you up, you'll discover that God has a way of preparing you for the bad news before the bad news comes. And when you get the bad news, you're able to keep a steady mind, and you don't have to get desperate. You don't have to pull your hair out. You don't have to go berserk and forget the words of prayer, because you're already in an intimate walk with God. And I know some of y'all can do this because you've told me, Pastor, I got some bad news the other day, but it's all right because I know that God had me before I got the bad news. I filled my head with good news, so just a little bit of bad news is not going to rob me of all the good news I heard in my life before the doctor told me what he did. Talking about what fasting will do. Fasting and praying will keep God's hand on us despite what's going on around us. Got to believe that Ezra, who is our personality today, was prepared in Babylon to do the ministry of restoration of worship in Jerusalem, which suggests to me that he did not lose his song in Babylon. Now, some of y'all may not know it, but there's a line in the text that just gets real. The psalmist of 139 gets real, and he talks the experiences of those Israelites who were held in captivity in Babylon. And he said, it was by the rivers of Babylon there we sat down, yea, we wept. When we remembered Zion, we hanged our harps upon the willows in the midst thereof, for there they that carried us away captive required of us a song. And our conclusion was, how shall we sing the Lord's song in a strange land? And saints, that's just real. It was just a reality of the circumstances of Israel, who were so accustomed, they were so located in their minds, they were so entrenched in the area of Jerusalem that was their worship center, that meant everything to them. But God knows there were a few fellas, and I believe there were a few women that recognized that God has a way of doing some wondrous work in Babylon. God has a way of doing some wondrous work in the pits of despair. I believe Ezra did some fasting in Babylon to get ready for Jerusalem. I just need to tell somebody, I don't care where you are, don't care what you're going through, use your present predicament for the Lord to have his way, because he'll prepare you in a storm to appreciate the sunshine. Ezra was at his best in Babylon so he could do his best in Jerusalem. Fasting will help us live hopeful in a hostile environment. Fasting will help us live hopeful in a hostile environment. Maybe that's what Christianity is all about. We can be settled in adverse circumstances and surroundings and yet not be subject to adverse circumstances and surroundings. How many of y'all, even in the midst of all the mess that we hear on the media, are determined that the stuff in the media is not going to rob you of your joy? See, if I had a few more of our foreparents in here, and I know I've told you all this before, but I remember when I was in school and I was learning about the Depression years and how folk were jumping out of windows and committing suicide during the Depression years. I was scratching my head right there in the classroom saying, wonder what my daddy was doing. Wonder what my mama was doing in those years of depression. How much were they tempted to commit suicide? Went home to my daddy, said, Daddy, what were y'all doing? What did you do around that time, 1929? You're 7, 8 years old. What were grandmama and them talking about? How did y'all make it? He looked at me and said, son, we didn't know anything about no depression. He had to tell me in his own little way. That was them other folks. I ain't mad at nobody, but that wasn't Mama and them. Mama and them said, listen, we understand who the Lord is. We've been making it on what we've been making it on for years. We've always been going through some heartache. We've always heard politicians lie to us. We've always heard wars or rumors of war. We've always heard storms and all kind of calamities and crises. But somehow or another, on bended knees, we made it because we recognized. We learned how to worship. We learned how to praise. We learned how to live our life according to the best. And he made a way. And here's what I'm saying, Mother Butler. I'm saying if God could do it way back then, he's able right now. Go ahead and pick yourself up, baby. Don't let anybody in D.C. upset you, cause you to lose sleep. Do you know who you belong to? You know who's walking with you. Have you heard him talk with you lately? Have he rocked you to sleep lately? Turn the TV off and steal away and look up toward heavenward and call on the best. Won't he? Won't he make a way? Won't he make a way? I said, won't he make a way? I said, won't he make a way? Is there anybody here? Is there anybody here that can be a witness that God will? Is there anybody here that can be a witness that God sure will? Is there anybody here? Don't y'all fool me now. Has he made a way? I got to move. When you fast. Now, I want y'all to check. I can't tell you everything. Y'all got the message. I believe you got it. So I'm going to cut it. But when you get a chance, read the 8th chapter of the book of Ezra. Now check this out. And discover, because see, I just believe, like Daniel, Ezra did some fasting in Babylon. Ezra made up his mind, I believe, like Daniel, because, see, sometimes saints, you can tell how people or what people did in the storm when they come out of the storm. And see, Ezra's fasting out of the storm. He's on his way to a profitable ministry of restoration. But I got to believe that fasting is not new to Ezra. And it's through fasting that Ezra understood the difference between life's source and life's resource. Now, I need you to get this, saints. Listen, like Ezra, we got to let the Lord bless us with the king's provision. Did y'all hear what I said? I'm going to break it. Like Ezra, we got to let the Lord bless us with the king's provision. The Lord is the source. When you read it, King Artaxerxes is the resource. We don't honor the resource. We honor the source. We don't worship the resource. We worship the source. When we worship and honor and obey the source has a way of making available to us resources. The Lord's hand source was upon the king, resources, to provide Ezra and Israel access to all the silver and gold in the province of Babylon. The king financed his purchase of all animals for the sacrificial offering. The king set him up a checking account on the king's bank. Read it. The king furnished him with up to 100 talents of silver, 650 bushels of wheat, 607 gallons of wine. Thank God nobody said nothing. 607 gallons of olive oil, a limitless amount of salt. King Artaxerxes issued a decree that every choir member, every preacher, every usher, every servant of the temple would be tax exempt. And if anybody did not abide by the law of Ezra and Israel's God, I'm talking about a pagan king. Now, I need y'all to watch me right along here. If anybody did not abide by the law of Ezra and Israel's king, God, they got their goods either confiscated, they were either banished, they were imprisoned, they received the death penalty. And this was to be executed expeditiously according to the king. Brothers and sisters, that's what you call resources from the source. That's when you honor God and let him provide the provisions. Well, how do I want to break this down to us? Well, if the executors of the Super Lotto decide they want to come here on a Sunday morning and say, Pastor Lil John, we know that you have not purchased the first ticket, nor do you preach and teach that we partake in the Super Lotto. But we want to gift you with $750 million. I'm going to know that's of God. Somebody missed it. If the governor of Nevada and the mayor of the city of Las Vegas said, Pastor Lil John, we know that you ain't into the gambling thing. We know that you don't preach it, you don't promote it, you don't condone it. In fact, maybe you condemn it. But we've been moved by your ministry to come on a Sunday morning and present you with $1 billion to continue to do ministry. I'm going to know that's of the Lord. If the president and if he come here, we're going to be nice. If he comes here on a Sunday morning, say, Pastor Lil John, I declare that every one of your members that serve in prayer at the curb on any given day will no longer pay federal taxes. I'm just saying, if that happens, I know. Brothers and sisters, all I'm saying is, let the Lord be your source. And let him provide you. Do y'all know the heart of the king belongs to God? And here's what I mean by that, saints. Our president, a king, may not. Cyrus didn't belong to the Lord. Nebuchadnezzar didn't belong to the Lord. Artaxerxes didn't belong to the Lord. But every one of them was subject unto our God. And don't you get in a tizzy. Don't you get upset. Don't you lose sleep because you got somebody who just seemed to do whatever they want to do. I dare you get down on your knees and pray and fast and talk to the Lord and say, God, put your hands on this president like you've done on other presidents and keep your hand on me so I can be receptive to your will and to your way and watch what the Lord will do. Some of y'all know he will make a way. Listen, I'm really stricken. I got to quit. But what really jumps at me, and I'm closing, what really jumps at me is Ezra says, I was ashamed. I was ashamed to ask the king for his army because I know what I've told the king about my God. And brothers and sisters, we need to let the words of our praise haunt us. And make up your mind, if you know God has made a way, if you know he's opened some doors for you, if you know he healed your body, quit going to anybody and everything for what you need. Quit depending on other folks and other situations. If the Lord does it, let him do it. But make sure that we look unto God, because our praise is riding on what we know God has done for us. And if you don't believe God did anything for you, then stop praising his name. But if you know he brought you not just part way, if you know he brought you all the way, if you know he changed you from the inside out, if you know he guards you in a midnight hour, if you know he's your company keeper, quit wishing for a, hoping for a boo, hoping for a bow. Quit spending your time waiting on, standing idle, waiting on God to deliver somebody to you. Learn how to make the Lord your trust. Learn how to set your mind on heavenly things. God knows what you need. He knows the void in your life. Learn how to abstain from some things and let the Lord have his way. For if you've ever prayed, and I know some of y'all have, if you've ever fasted, if you've ever come to the Lord, if you've ever talked to him in earnest according to his word, brothers and sisters, I need to tell you, you know he still hears and answers prayer. Somebody don't know it today, but I promise you, been there, done that. Didn't know what to do at my road's end. I'm just telling you what I've done, because the same God who did it for me, somebody in here knows he'll do it for you. All you got to do is trust in the Lord with all of your heart. Lean not to your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him, and God will. Does anybody know he will? God will. Yes, he will. He'll meet you where you are, take you to where he would have you to be. I wonder, do I have somebody here that's not ashamed to testify today? All you got to do is wave your hand. Has God ever answered your prayer? Has God ever turned the lights on in your life? Has God ever mended your broken heart? Has God ever dried tears from your eyes? Has God ever rocked you in a midnight hour? Has God ever picked you up, turn you around, place your feet on solid ground? If you know he will, say yeah. If you know he can, say yeah. Yeah, yes. God will. God will. Just when I need him, he's always right there. He'll show up because he's always there.
He's always on time because he owns time. He dwells in eternity, but he works in time. Don't you know he works in time? I know he works in time because he made a way one Friday. He made a way for you and me one Friday. That's what he did. He took on your sin. He took on your lie. He took on your shame. He took on your guilt. Purged it on the cross. Put him in a borrowed tomb. But bright early Sunday morning. That's why saints of God ought to have a shout like no other day on Sunday morning. On Sunday morning, there ought to be a renewance of your birth process. As a matter of fact, saints of God ought to have a birthday every Sunday morning to remind you of the renewal of your relationship with the Lord. If you know you've been born again, you ought to shout hallelujah every Sunday morning. I've discovered if the Lord never does anything else. See, and everybody can't quite come to this conclusion immediately. But when you fool around and make fasting a part of your life and you gain that intimacy of walking with the Lord where you know beyond a shadow of a doubt, like Ezra, that his hand is on you. With the Lord's hand on me, if he never does anything else for me, he's done enough. He's done enough. Pastor, if he don't do anything else for you, how you going to make it to heaven? If he don't do anything else for you, how you going to make it to your eternal resting place? If he doesn't do anything else for you, how you going to see Jesus? I wish I could tell you, I see him now. I'm walking with him now. I'm with him. I have eternal. I wish I had somebody in here to recognize. We have eternal life now. I know what you're saying, Pastor. One day they're going to put you in a cemetery. I got news for you. One day they're going to put this in a cemetery. One day they're going to put what you see in a cemetery. Because what you see came from the earth in the first place. One day somebody going to lay over me, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, earth to earth. That's what you see. But when the breath goes out of this body, I'm going to see him for myself. So I'm shouting now. I'm praising him now. Because one of these old days, I shall see him like I see you. One of these old days, I'm going to shout before him like I'm shouting before you. That's enough. That's enough. That's enough. Door to church. Door to church is open. Door to church is open.